Welcome all to another grammar one, but not as short as I was planning initially. Why am I saying that? Well, it's because it was supposed to be another 5-minute guide, because we all know how simple the imperfect is. And if you don't, watch the explanation from the beginning, because otherwise the second part of the video covers the problems most people face, and that is the usage of the imperfect. It is a prevalent thing to use the imperfect wrong, or not use it at all in the right place. And we will probably have other videos in this season where we compare the imperfect with other past tenses. But until then, let's get the gist of this one as part of the season 8 past tenses, where we talk all about, well, past tenses. And as you are hopefully accustomed to already, you do have a set of exercises as well, especially crafted to test your knowledge acquired in this video. If you are looking for a Romanians learners community, join us on Discord. If you want to learn at your own pace, but with a little help from me, we have plenty of learning materials and calls on Patreon. And if you want private classes, check me on Calendly. All links are down in the description. So, the imperfect and its usages. It's a very simple topic that you will probably not struggle with building the imperfect, but rather the second part, which is the usages. So let's imagine the building the imperfect is going to be like a super beginner thing, but then along the way you will understand better what its usages are, because to begin with you will probably know one or two. If you know what past continuous is, then you might know that every time you need to use past continuous in English, you will use imperfect. We'll get into that in a second, but there are other usages in Romanian that might not seem straightforward, and we will cover them all in this video because they are very common for a native speaker to use them, and I think you should keep an eye on them and try to spot whenever there is an imperfect, and probably try to use it yourself in the everyday speaking. So the first thing is here, which is a very easy way to look at it. You have the so-called conjugation. Is basically how you build it. And I think the first thing that you need to know when you conjugate the imperfect is that all the endings are basically the perfect compus. But instead of putting them at the beginning plus the participle, you put this at the end. So you have the verb and you move the auxiliary to the end, and it gets completely joined. It gets concatenated, if you want. So this is what I mean by this table, right? You have the singular, plural, persoana întâi, persoana a doua, persoana a treia. I think that's quite straightforward. And you have am, ai, am again, ati, and au. So am, I, a, am, ati, au, plus an x here. Most of the time this x will be nothing, but it can also be e or I, depending on the conjugation, depending on the infinitive. So bear in mind, we will have a look at some examples in a second. But basically what I mean by this x is it can be nothing, so just am, or it can be yam or yam. So yai or yai. I know for some beginners in Romanian, you might not notice any difference between when I say yam and yai. It's probably a normal thing. And it's true, there's not a huge difference, but if you listen carefully, yam and yai, there is a difference in pronunciation. So this is what it can be. And let's look at some examples. So I took here 4 random verbs, and I will try to use them to conjugate basically what they are in imperfect. A souffla is to blow, so in imperfect that would be soufflam, soufflai, souffla, soufflam again, soufflați, and soufflau. So this is one. Then zice. Yeah, as you can see here, this one has the X as nothing. You just cut the ending and then add this. So once again, you cut the infinitive ending. This is how it works with infinitive. You cut the infinitive ending and then you add those. Right? So coming to the next one, a zice. Yeah? So you cut the ending, ziceam, ziceai, zicea, ziceam, ziceați, ziceau. Here you might say, oh, but you don't really care about it, right? Because about the sending, because you can just say, oh, you add and there you go. Yes, but it's not really accurate, because if you look at the first one, if you remove this, you would add am after you cut this. So you wouldn't add am after the a. It will not be soufflam. Yeah? This will not happen here. You will not add am to the ending as you do here. So it's a slightly different rule. Obviously, double a's don't exist in Romanian, and double vowels, apart from a couple of them, don't exist in Romanian. Only double i's and double u's exist in Romanian, and double u's are very, very, very rare. So ziceam is zice, cut the ending here, and then you add the xam, which is eam in this instance. Let's move to the next one. A vopsi. Here, vopseam, vopseai, vopsea, vopseam, vopseați, vopseau. To paint, right? Says here. Same here. Think about what I said earlier. You cut the ending and then you add this. You don't just add eam to whatever is there. It will not be vopseam. Although you might hear some people, some Romanians struggling with education saying that or writing that, or some accents as well. It really depends. And then finally we have here a locui, which is one of those last ones where you put the I. So try maybe to make it yourself if you want. Pause the video. If not, I can go and try to do it myself here. Locuiam, locuiai, locuia, locuiam, locuiamți, locuiau. So here you see it again happening. You remove the I and then you add I, am, I. So yam, yai, ya, yam, yați, yau. That's it with the conjugation. It really depends. Like you can see here, for those types, you get the EA. For this, you get the just the A, basically. For this one, you get IA. So bear that in mind. Here it's a very specific situation with IA because it's only verbs ending in, let me change the color maybe. So here with verbs ending in I, that's not enough to get this IAM, this yam, because a locui is a special one, is UI. So verbs ending in ui in Romanian. There are not many as well. And then, so
Here is verbs in infinitive ending in A and in U. Here is verbs ending in the infinitive in E, EA, and most of the I ones. So if you have, for example, plăti, to pay, făceam, right? We will look at those that are irregular in a second. So that's what you need to know when you use the imperfect. It's quite easy. You take the, as I said, the infinitive, you cut it, and then you add the ending. And all the endings are the same as in Perfect Compus. If you haven't studied Perfect Compus yet, it's completely fine. One can be learned before the other and wouldn't really make a difference. But probably I would recommend learning Perfect Compus first because that's more common and more used and more useful, really, than this one. Next, we have the irregulars. Here we have quite a few. I want to point out a few that are very different. So the irregulars, there are quite, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's quite a lot of them for Romanian, because in Romanian you don't have so many irregularities. You have a few, which all of those are very strange or very different. If you're speaking other Latin languages, you'll find it very similar. Avea, not very different. And then avrea. This is not 100% correct, but I want to tell you something about this. There is something special happening with avrea. Most people will know vrea in imperfect as what I wrote here, but that is not true. This is not avrea in imperfect. Avrea in imperfect will follow vream, vrei, vrea, vream, vreți, vreau.
Stefan from the future here, the correct form in imperfect for a vrea in the voi form is voi vreați, not voi vreți, like in the present.
All right. This would be the correct imperfect, but very important, many people will actually use, let's use a green, will use the verb a voi, which is also, it's very similar to a vrea. It's basically the same, it's to want. But they will commonly use a voi instead of a vrea for the imperfect. Not many people will say vream să mergem. It doesn't really apply to reality. You'll not really say vrei să te duci. No, you would say voiam. Voiați, voiam. This is not correct here. This is voiai. Yeah, so this is not happening here. It's voiai. My bad. Not voiați. Voiați is just this one. So you will use a voi instead of a vrea. That's a special case. And you should use a voi, voiam, voiați, and so on, instead of vream. Then the dam, the day, this is quite different. The da will change to something like dud. And then you put the ending, right? Quite strange. Asta is very similar. Stă, stăt, actually. Stăteam, right? And then you put the ending. Scrie and știi, știam. So this is following the pattern from those verbs with UI, sorry. But it's taking the IA. So știam, știai, and so on and so forth. There's one thing I didn't mention here when you build the imperfect that probably looks a bit weird. So you see that this form is the same as this form. So eu is exactly the same as noi. The only thing I can tell you is that you will notice from the context. Yeah, so look at the context and you will see which one is which. If somebody says, let's use one of those maybe, scriam pe tablă, I was writing on the blackboard, obviously you wouldn't know much. But if the context before is that, eram în clasă singur și la un moment dat, so I was in the class alone and at some point scriam pe tablă ceva. I was writing something on the blackboard. I don't know, it's an example. So context. The difference between eu and noi, the scriam and scriam, or the eram and eram, you will notice it from the context. And then finally we get to the best part, the usage of the imperfect. Here I will touch on probably the most important ones, and as I said in the beginning, there are some usages that are more straightforward than others. And the most straightforward one is this one. It's the English past continuous. I know some people might have no idea what past continuous is, and that's why I'm going to explain it very quickly here. So past continuous was were plus a verb with ing. So I was sleeping. They were jumping. She was eating, and so on. That's past continuous, right? So if you look here, were you sleeping at 6 a.m. yesterday? If you want, you can give it a shot. You can practice this now and try to translate it. Otherwise, I'm going to give you the answer. So this will be dormeam la 6 dimineața. Dormeai, right? Dormeai la 6 dimineața ieri. Dormeai, yeah, the verb in infinitive is, let's try to do this, right? A dormi. It ends in I, it doesn't end in UI, just in I, so that's why it goes with this conjugation with EAI, dormeai. Every time you'll see past continuous in English, you will use it in Romanian too. In other languages, like for example Spanish, you will have the imperfect but also the past continuous. There are two, but in Romanian you just translate it the same. Also bear in mind one very interesting thing here in English. Era. This is probably a topic for another video, but when you use to be in English as in the past with was and were, it is sometimes imperfect, sometimes past simple. So the perfect compus in Romanian. So that's why I think that needs to be a special mention for another video in this season. Then storytelling. This is something that comes a bit less natural, but I gave here an example. Frodo mergea către munte, în timp ce Sam se întorcea din drum. În același timp, Gandalf se lupta cu orcii. Hope you like my Lord of the Rings reference there. So, if you would translate this to English, again, I can give you a moment. Otherwise, Frodo was going towards the mountain while Sam was coming back. Well, basically he was, coming back. And at the same time, Gandalf was fighting the orcs. So, as you have noticed, probably all of those are in imperfect and all of them are in English as past continuous. So this is probably a bit more straightforward, but let me give you another example. So if you want to say, let's say, so when I was 15, I had a lot of time. Yeah, so things like this, had, was, are in past simple in English, but they will be imperfect in Romanian. Yeah, so also this is to have in Romanian. So, când aveam 15 ani, aveam mult timp. This doesn't have to be the age. It can be, for example, about when we were at the seaside, blah, blah, blah. So this we were, it would be eram. So it would be imperfect.
If you got all the way here in this video, I think you should consider subscribing to the Romanian Academy down below. It would help me with the algorithm, but if you also like the video, you give the chance to other Romanian enthusiasts just like you to join this awesome community and learn more things about the Romanian language or Romania in general. Should we get back to the video? Let's do it.
Cool. Then the past if clauses. This is, so as an alternative to perfect conditional. This might be already very strange and difficult in English, but I can explain very quickly. Perfect conditional is would have done. Yeah, so would plus present perfect. And present perfect is have, has, plus participle. And participle, yeah, is the ed or the third form of a verb. So would have eaten, would have slept, I would have liked. So in Romanian, if you might know this already, there is a perfect conditional, which is, for example, aș fi mers, aș fi făcut, aș fi dorit. I can write this over here. Let's try in English. So I would have come if you had told me. Yeah, so this can be done with aș fi făcut. This is, by the way, an intermediate thing. It's probably not for the beginners, but if you want to say this in English, so you would have come, that means that you didn't come because you weren't told. Yeah, and what that means in Romanian, you can say aș fi venit dacă mi-ai fi spus, but that definitely can be a bit easier. Veneam dacă îmi spuneai. I have no idea which one is easier for a for an English speaker or for a foreigner learning Romanian, but I think in Romanian more people use this because it's just more straightforward. But I think if you take it from the English, this one, I think it's closer to the first. Like imagine translating this to English. I was coming if you were telling me, right? It's a bit strange, I think. But if not, tell me in the comments. I would really like to hear about it. So asking for things, that's the next step. And voiam să mă întrebam dacă. This is actually a very easy one. This is basically being polite when asking for things. Instead of being direct and saying, I want that, or I would like that, even if I would like that is not very direct, you have this option that is, in my opinion, is very indirect. You know, it's up to you how you want to use it, but it's very indirect, it's very weird, but many people use it. So, you know, voiam să means I wanted to, so you would have examples like voiam să vă întreb dacă aveți, I don't know, banane. Basically what this means is, do you have bananas? Let's say you're at a shop, right? But you say, I was wanting to ask you if you had bananas. Very strange. And then this one, mă întrebam dacă. This is very similar to I was wondering. This is very, very close to I was wondering. So, mă întrebam dacă taking the same example, or mă întrebam dacă vreți să veniți la petrecere. You can see that I used for both of them the formal, veniți, aveți. So yeah, that's a bit more formal. It's a bit of a more formal one. You wouldn't really use it with friends because you can be direct with friends. But if you need a bit of formality and you don't want to use this aveți and veniți, you can change this to the to form and you can say voiam să te întreb. It's still not very formal. This is the most formal, I guess. But yeah, it's your option. You have different levels of formality with Romanian. And then you have the final one, did you know? This is a very easy one. It's like, actually, instead of asking did you know, is știai, so you use the imperfect. Obviously, this doesn't translate to English. It will be something like, were you knowing that? Yeah, so those knowledge verbs don't really make sense in continuous form in English. So an example could be știai că Andrei nu a venit la examen? Did you know that Andrei didn't come to the exam? Boom. And you can change it to anything you want. So please let me know if you have any questions. You have this all now as a little recap. I want to go through it. So the conjugation, adding the ending, depends on the verb, which ending it takes. So if it's a, ea, or ia, it depends on the infinitive. Those are the infinitives. Possibilities. There's also this special one, ui. And then for irregulars, there are a couple of strange ones. Don't forget about a vrea. It's not really a vrea in Romanian. Most people will not use a vrea, will use a voi. And a fi is very, very different. And also don't forget about eu and noi. And it really depends on the context. Then the usage of the imperfect and 5 different things. This, from easy probably to intermediate, this intermediate as well maybe, and those are easy. Or beginner, whatever. Yeah. So I would focus on maybe this and this at the beginning, and then those two along the way, because those two used correctly, you'll take a bit of time. All right, that was the imperfect in Romanian.
All right, ladies and gents, thank you so much for watching this. I'm so grateful for your support here, on Patreon, Discord, and even TikTok nowadays. Who would have thought? Well, I didn't. Let me know in the comment section below if any of the usages for the imperfect discussed already could have been clearer. Don't forget about the exercises and the links in the description. And I will see you here next week with a bunch of new phrases and the monthly live stream on the 1st of May at the regular time. Until then, la revedere!